On New Year's Eve, I discovered GC's secret. GCI, who had promised to spend the holiday with me, suddenly changed plans to accompany an important overseas client. I didn't stop him. After 4 years of marriage, I knew how hard GCI had worked to establish himself. But after the New Year's Eve dinner, with my parents playing mahjong and the house filled with warmth and laughter, I thought of GCI. His mother had always been particularly averse to the Spring Festival. On a day when families reunited, he was always alone. Thinking of this, a wave of heartache spread through my chest. I retreated to my room to call him. He said he was with a client in the western suburbs. The foreigner insisted on seeing a fireworks show to experience the Chinese New Year. This is a time for families to be together. Sui, I really wish I could watch it with you. I miss you too. The heartache exploded in my chest. The western suburbs weren't far from my home. I could make it there before midnight. I decided to surprise GCI. When I arrived, it was just midnight. Seeing the familiar figure in the crowd, I felt like I had fallen into an ice cellar. It was GCI, but the person beside him wasn't a foreign client. It was a woman, and although she had changed a lot, I recognized her immediately. GC's ex-girlfriend, Zhang Nian. Under the fireworks, Zhang Nian jumped up and kissed GCI on the lips. GCI was momentarily stunned but didn't push her away. Instead, he took the lead, holding Zhang Nian tightly as if he had found a lost treasure. In that instant, something inside me exploded like the fireworks, leaving me in a bloody mess. The year we got together, I eagerly dragged him to a New Year's event. During the countdown, couples couldn't help but kiss, and I wanted to as well. But GCI apologized. Sorry, Sui, my personality might be a bit old-fashioned. I can't do this in public. Tears fell to the ground. I thought it was just his personality, but it turned out he could be passionate with the right person. The kiss ended, and the fireworks stopped, but they held each other for a long time before letting go. Zhang Nian cried. I couldn't hear what they were saying from a distance, but I clearly saw the pain in GC's eyes. He hugged Zhang Nian and said something that made her smile. As they prepared to leave, I, the legitimate wife, hid in the car in a panic. They drove away, and I instinctively followed like a thief. They entered an underground garage, and GCI parked the car. They went upstairs together. My phone lit up with a message from GCI. Sui, sorry, I got caught up with the client and couldn't call you at midnight. You should rest early. I'm heading home now. The cold wind seemed to blow into my heart. I waited in the underground parking lot for 4 hours, but GCI never came down. He didn't come home until the next evening. Seeing me in the living room, he came over to hug me as usual. Sui, it's only been a couple of days, but I miss you so much. I stared at him, and he sighed contentedly, as if he really missed me. He leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my head. His lips had kissed Zhang Nian last night, and maybe he had kissed her all over before coming home. I turned away, and he missed. I tried to speak, but my voice was choked with sobs. GCI, how did the overseas client meeting go? His expression stiffened. It went well, very smoothly. Liar. But before I could decide what to do, I saw Zhang Nian. She came to G's house uninvited on the second day of the new year while we were having dinner with my mother-in-law. My blood froze. But my mother-in-law's reaction was even stronger, her eyes filled with uncontrollable anger. GCI quickly called out, "Mom, Mom, let me introduce you to Sui Sui. It was a reminder, probably to avoid embarrassing me. But it was also a form of protection. My mother-in-law glanced at me, suppressing her anger. GCI tried to stay calm. Sui Sui, this is my friend, Jong Nayan. I smiled sarcastically and clung to GCI. Jong Nayan stared at our intertwined hands. What friend? You tell me everything, and I've never heard of this important friend. Sure enough, Jong Nayan's eyes reddened. My mother-in-law spoke coldly. She's not important. Coming uninvited during the new year shows a lack of manners. Jong Nayan's eyes reddened further. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw GCI clench his other fist. He must be heartbroken. Noticing Jong Nayan staring at our hands, GCI instinctively let go of my hand and took a step towards her. We all froze. My heart sank, and I suddenly felt my actions were ridiculous. To cover his awkwardness, GCI went to the kitchen to get bowls and chopsticks. Mom, it's the new year, and Sui Sui is here. Since she's already here, let's have a meal together. My mother-in-law ate in silence, suppressing her anger. Jong Nayan looked at GCI and my mother-in-law, her eyes filled with tears. Auntie, we've always felt guilty. My mom and Uncle G. Mentioning Uncle G triggered something in my mother-in-law. Since I've known her, she's always been elegant. But now, all her elegance was gone. She threw the cup in front of her at Jong Nayan. But GCI was faster. He rushed to Jong Nayan, knocking me over in the process. As I fell, my hand instinctively reached out, landing on the broken pieces of the cup. Ah! The pain made me cry out. GCI saw me on the ground, guilt flashing in his eyes. He was about to help me up. But my mother-in-law suddenly became hysterical. Have you and your mother not hurt me enough? The usually elegant woman lost all composure. She threw everything she could at Jong Nayan. And GCI held Jong Nayan tightly in his arms. I struggled to stand, but my mother-in-law was completely out of control. She picked up a bowl of hot soup. GCI and Jong Nayan, like star-crossed lovers, protected each other, pushing me, with my injured leg, to the front, where I was scalded by the hot soup. The pain in my thigh and abdomen was excruciating. I heard GC's concern. Nayan Nayan, are you okay? CI, my arm hurts. The usually gentle GCI yelled at his mother. Mom, why are you acting like a shrew? Don't you know Nayan Nayan is my savior? He carried Jong Nayan out quickly, not noticing his wife of for years trembling in pain from the hot soup. The pain spread to my heart, making it hard to breathe. My mother-in-law, seeing my pale face, cried uncontrollably. Sui Sui, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'll take you to the hospital. She kept apologizing. In her rambling, I learned things I never knew. My mother-in-law had once taken pity on Jong Nayan's mother and hired her as a maid. That's when GCI met Jong Nayan. I'm not someone who looks down on the poor. I didn't oppose their relationship. But why did her mother have to steal my husband? GC's father had an affair with Jong Nayan's mother on New Year's Eve. No wonder my mother-in-law hated the holiday. After hearing her story, I touched my face, feeling the wetness. With such hatred and resentment, did he still love Jong Nayan? And what did that make me? I had a crush on GCI in college. When I finally mustered the courage to confess, he rejected me. After graduation, I reunited with him while helping my dad find investors. I was too nervous to speak, but he smiled. "Didn't you confess to me in college? Why are you so nervous now? Do you still like me?" I still remember his gentle voice. "Sui Sui, should we give it a try? I think I feel something when I see you." I thought I was the happiest person in the world. But from my mother-in-law's words, I learned that when he confessed to me, he had just broken up with Jong Nayan. The hospital was warm, but I felt a bone-chilling cold. The nearest hospital was here, so GCI probably brought Jong Nayan too. But during the long time I was getting treated, he didn't send me a single message. It wasn't until I got home that he seemed to remember me. He greeted me with concern. "Sui Sui, I'm sorry. Things were chaotic. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I went to the bedroom to change into shorter clothes to avoid touching the burns. He followed me into the bedroom and saw the shocking burn scars. He quickly approached, examining my wounds. "What happened? Let me take you to the hospital." His concern seemed genuine, but I found it laughable. "I've already been. Sui Sui, why didn't you call me when you went to the hospital?" He stopped mid-sentence, realizing. When I was scalded, he was protecting Jong Nayan. When I was trembling in pain, he was with Jong Nayan at the hospital. Guilt flashed in his eyes. "Sui Sui, I'm really sorry. Things were chaotic. I didn't notice you. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again." Tears suddenly fell onto the bed. People instinctively care for those they value most, and it wasn't me. I hadn't cried like this even when the accident 4 years ago left me with a permanent limp. "GCI, Mom told me about you and Jong Nayan. Do you still love her?" GC's face turned pale. No, Sui Sui. We were together, but I forgot about her long ago. After what happened, how could I still like her? But I recently found out that 4 years ago, I owed her my life. I looked down. 4 years ago, GCI and I were inseparable. When did he owe her his life? "Sui Sui, if it bothers you, I won't contact her again, okay?" He took out his phone, fumbling with it, then showed it to me like a treasure. Then he hugged me, his lips urgently kissing my face. "Sui Sui, I only love you now." I wiped away my tears and said nothing more. Liar. Maybe out of guilt or insecurity, GCI started compensating me. Every day after work, he brought me a bouquet of flowers. Sometimes it was blue hydrangeas, sometimes cappuccino roses. If it were before, I would have smiled with joy. But now, my heart felt nothing. GCI was always straightforward. On holidays, he would give me expensive but tasteless jewelry. But now I realized he wasn't straightforward, he just didn't care. GC's friend invited us to his birthday party. GCI went to the smoking room with his friends. He forgot his phone, and someone kept calling him. I had no choice but to bring his phone to him. Before opening the smoking room door, I heard him talking about Jong Nayan with his friends. "The flower shop you opened for Jong Nayan is in a good location. You go there every day to buy flowers. Don't think I don't know you just want to see Jong Nayan. I thought you were serious about chasing Jong Sui, that girl from a small family. What were you thinking?" His friend's words pierced my heart like a sword. I wanted to laugh but ended up crying. He said he would cut ties with Jong Nayan, and I had believed him a little. Was he bringing me flowers out of guilt or because he wanted to see Jong Nayeon? After a long silence, GCI finally spoke. I'm not sure. My mom threatened me with her life to break up with Jong Nayeon. I had to find someone quickly to reassure her. Jong Sui just happened to be there. She liked me in college and came from a modest family. If my mom accepted her, it wouldn't be hard to handle. The reason I didn't dare to think about was revealed by GCI. I didn't listen to the rest. I ran to the bathroom in a panic. When GCI confessed to me after our reunion, I didn't agree. After leaving the ivory tower, I understood that the gap between social classes was like a chasm. He was the heir to an established company, and my family only had a small factory. The gap was insurmountable. But GCI was persistent, pursuing me openly. Many of his friends advised him to give up, saying he could find any woman he wanted, especially someone as ordinary as me. But GCI repeated to all his friends, because I like her, she's not ordinary. There are many ordinary people in the world, but I noticed one named Jong Sui. When I kept avoiding him, GCI patiently followed me. I thought his persistence meant he truly liked me, just as my initial attraction to him grew into an indescribable feeling over time. But the truth was, his mother's pressure and my easily controlled background. I clearly heard my heart shatter, filling with cold air. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried uncontrollably. After a long time, I calmed down. I never thought of divorcing GCI. Letting go and moving on? Impossible. At the second party, I uncharacteristically drank several glasses of wine. By the end, I was tipsy. When GCI called me, I stood there in a daze. He came over to pull me. Sui, what's wrong? I leaned into his arms, taking advantage of his outstretched hand. I've loved GCI for so long. I counted on my fingers, reaching the 9th one, and held it up in front of him. 9 years. In my sophomore year, my family's business struggled, my dad's health declined, and I didn't get along with my roommates. I hid on the lover's path at school, crying secretly. Feelings are often inexplicable. He did nothing but hand me a pack of tissues and let his stray cat cuddle with me, and I remembered it for a long time. GCI looked incredulous but then hugged me tighter. Luckily, we have many more years to love each other. But I cried uncontrollably. No more. You lied to me. GCI, I don't want flowers anymore. Can you stop buying flowers? GCI stiffened for a moment, guilt filling his eyes. He lowered his head, kissing my forehead repeatedly. I'm sorry. I won't go anymore. I stopped crying, burying my face in his clothes, hiding my clear eyes. GCI stopped bringing me flowers, probably not visiting Jong Nayeon's flower shop either. But he still brought me various quirky little things every day. It was clear he was trying. But Jong Nayeon couldn't wait any longer. When GCI didn't contact her, she panicked. She came to me, showing me her phone and her Weibo. It was filled with their past relationship records. In the 5 years I was with GCI, I always felt happy because of his gentleness and emotional stability. But GCI had his moments of immaturity. He would get into fights out of jealousy, run around the city to buy Jong Nayeon's favorite pastries. My face remained calm, but my hand holding the phone went numb. So this is what it means to truly love someone. On New Year's Day, GCI didn't come home all day. He was at Disneyland with Jong Nayeon. In the photos, GCI wore a bunny headband. After 5 years of waiting, he still remembered to take me to Disneyland. GCI was a considerate lover. During our years together, he planned thoughtful dates. But despite living so close to Disneyland, he never took me there. I had mentioned it casually, but GCI had seriously refused. I knew it all along. But why did my heart still ache? I pushed the phone back. Miss Zhang, you should have seen that GCI and I were once very much in love, and we still are. I shrugged indifferently. So what? Do you think being Mrs. G is less important than being his mistress? He can afford to keep a mistress. The term mistress made Zhang Nian furious. You don't understand. How can a cripple like you deserve him? He never forgot me, and he owes me his life. Just wait, you can't win against me. Fine, I'll wait. Zhang Nian left angrily. I covered my face, collapsing into a chair. The facade of our loving relationship shattered when GCI came home from work one day. He looked at me with undisguised anger. Zhang Sui, did you go looking for trouble with her? I promised not to see her again. What more do you want? Did you send people to cause trouble at Zhang Nian's flower shop? I only helped her with the flower shop out of guilt. We have no contact. Why can't you leave her alone? The usually calm GCI grabbed a vase and smashed it on the floor. Speak. GCI opened a trending topic. Several people had gone to Zhang Nian's flower shop, causing trouble and calling her a mistress. One person used a megaphone to announce. The shop owner's mother seduced someone else's husband, and now her daughter is doing the same. My face turned pale. If not you, then who else? Zhang Sui, I always thought you were a sensible wife. How could you do such a thing? She incurred a lot of debt to treat my dad. Now she's being chased by debt collectors. Because of me, her health is poor. I owe her so much. It's wrong to trouble her. On my behalf, apologize to her, okay? I wiped my tears haphazardly. GCI, why do you assume it's me? Why couldn't she have staged it herself? GC's expression changed. Zhang Sui, only you know those things. Zhang Nian wouldn't do that. I know her. She's not that kind of person. The irony in my heart grew. He trusted his ex-girlfriend of 5 years but not his wife of 5 years. I wanted to laugh, but the tears kept coming. I trembled as I took out my phone. I had recorded my meeting with Zhang Nian, though I had edited it. Zhang Nian's voice played clearly. How can a cripple like you deserve him? He never forgot me, and he owes me his life. Just wait, you can't win against me. The anger on his face cracked, and he was speechless. Until his phone rang. He answered hastily, accidentally hitting the speaker button. It was GC's mother. Zhao Ci, today's incident was my punishment for her. If you don't cut ties with her, next time it won't be just this. I stubbornly held my head high, refusing to let any more tears fall. GCI looked at me, his face turning ashen. He stammered for a while before finally speaking. Sui, I'm a bastard. I didn't know she came to see you. She's young and doesn't understand. I apologize on her behalf. Young? Zhang Nian was only a year younger than me. I forced a sarcastic smile. And what right do you have to apologize to your wife on behalf of another woman? His face turned pale. Sui, please don't be like this. We stood in silence, facing each other. GCI avoided my gaze. Sui, do you remember the hotel fire 4 years ago? I was trapped deep inside, and the firefighters prioritized the areas with more people. Jong Nayeon risked her life to drag me out. So now, with her in such a difficult situation, I can't just stand by. Hearing his words, I was taken aback. But then, GCI tightly held my hand. His eyes were filled with cautious hope. Sui, I promise, there won't be a next time. I'll make Jong Nayeon apologize to you. GCI made many promises, but he never kept any. I buried my head, looking extremely aggrieved. I hadn't sent people to cause trouble at Jong Nayeon's flower shop. I had simply ordered some pastries for my mother-in-law from the shop opposite Jong Nayeon's and had our housekeeper pick them up. The housekeeper, who had been with my mother-in-law for years, naturally reported seeing Jong Nayeon. Everyone had to suffer equally for it to be fair. I felt like I couldn't understand GCI anymore. Despite my reluctance, he brought Jong Nayeon to apologize. She had tears in her eyes, looking deeply aggrieved, but under GC's urging gaze, she bowed to me. Sui, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things to you. There's nothing between GCI and me. As soon as she finished speaking, tears fell from her eyes. GCI turned his head as if he couldn't bear to watch. A strong sense of unwillingness surged within me. GCI, you want me to forgive you and move on. I can overlook what happened last time. I can overlook you opening a shop for her. But you must swear in front of Jong Nayeon that you will never contact her again, cut off all ties, and never help her with anything. Otherwise, there will be no good outcome for anyone. GC's face changed, filled with hesitation. He looked at Jong Nayeon, then at me. Sui, you've always been understanding. Can't you not make things difficult for me? As soon as he spoke, I regretted it. I felt ridiculous. What was I even trying to test? GCI, I'm your wife. Is it unreasonable to ask you to keep your distance from someone you have an ambiguous relationship with? And what did you promise me before? His face showed embarrassment, and Jong Nayeon stood there, looking fragile, suddenly collapsing to the ground. GCI clenched his fists, unable to hold back any longer. He picked up Jong Nayeon and headed for the door. Sui, I owe her a lot. She's in a tough spot now. I can't just ignore her. I couldn't help but shout. GCI, if I force you to choose, if you leave with her, we're done. He carried Jong Nayeon out, leaving me with a cold look. I never held your limp against you. What more do you want? A wave of coldness washed over me. A year after we got together, I had an accident, leaving me with a permanent limp. I told GCI that if he minded, we could break up, and I wouldn't blame him. But he got angry. Don't say such nonsense. I only care about you. To prove he didn't mind, he quickly proposed to me. But it was all a lie. He did mind and saw it as a favor to me. I touched my cheek, feeling the wetness. How embarrassing. I had promised myself not to care. I silently walked into the bedroom, packed my suitcase, and took a document to G's house. After taking care of everything, I suddenly missed my parents. No matter how old you get, when you're sad, you always want your parents' comfort. I sent a message, settled things at the studio, and decided to drive home. When I arrived, it was already evening, and I received a call from an unfamiliar number. A clear male voice came from the other end. Nyan, where did you put the body wash? Then there was a flurry of activity. Finally, Jong Nyan's triumphant voice. Jong Sui, he can't live without me. You threatened him today, but it was in vain. He's still here with me. I gripped my phone tightly, my fingers turning white. Congratulations on getting what you wanted. I turned off my phone and slept soundly at home. When I woke up, it was already 11 o'clock. My phone was filled with missed calls and unread messages from GCI. Sui, where are you? Sui, answer my calls. Let's talk. Why didn't you ever tell me about those things? Sui, I won't agree to a divorce. Knowing what I know now, I won't divorce you. Before going home, I took the divorce agreement I had prepared and went to see my mother-in-law. Half-truths and half-lies, I discovered I had a talent for acting. I told GC's mom that I didn't have the courage to face GCI and asked her to give him the divorce agreement. No matter how she tried to persuade me, I just cried, unable to say a word. I told her that even if we divorced, she shouldn't tell GCI that I was injured while saving him from the fire. I didn't want him to feel guilty. But I knew that in this situation, she would definitely tell him. The truth, when revealed by an outsider, would be more painful and real. I wanted him to feel guilty, to regret, to be restless and sleepless. And knowing all this, how could GCI agree to a divorce? This was the poison in my heart, a direct hit. And it worked perfectly. GCI found me at home that night, his eyes filled with guilt. I didn't speak, and GCI didn't dare bring it up. He cautiously asked, Sui, will you come home with me? To his surprise, I nodded, said goodbye to my parents, and followed him home. The 2-hour drive was silent. When we got home, I went straight to my room. As I was about to close the door, GCI couldn't keep up the pretense any longer. His eyes showed a hint of sadness. Sui, we've been married for 4 years. Why didn't you ever tell me your leg is because of me? I smirked. More importantly, why did you believe Jong Nyan when she said she saved you? His face turned pale. I didn't believe it at first, but she has large burn scars on her body. A girl who became like that for me, guilt overwhelmed me. I laughed loudly, feeling a deep sense of desolation. GCI, I didn't tell you the truth because I didn't want you to feel guilty every time you saw my leg. I never intended to tell him, and even GC's mom didn't understand. Rushing in to save him was my decision, for my peace of mind. I didn't want to bind someone to me with guilt and gratitude. But he used that guilt on someone else, leaving me in pieces. GCI must have realized this too. His face grew paler. But GCI, how did you know she had burn scars? Did you sleep with her? Did your guilt lead you to her bed? He quickly denied it. No. I shrugged. Just kidding. Why are you so nervous? His face was tense. But the divorce agreement, you saw it, right? If there's anything you want to change, let me know. His expression turned grim. I tore it up, Sui. I don't want a divorce. I won't agree. I know I messed up, but give me a chance to make it right. I looked at him, half smiling. Really? You've said that before. The color drained from his face. I closed the door, hearing his final words. I'll prove it. Soon, I understood what he meant by proving it. The trending topic he had suppressed before was back up. Jong Nayeon being a mistress was once again a hot topic, with righteous onlookers causing trouble at her flower shop. GCI came to me, looking like he was offering a treasure, his eyes filled with hope and apology. Sui, I took back her flower shop. I'll make her repay the money I gave her. I suddenly found him terrifying. Just a while ago, he was still moved by Jong Nayeon's every move. But now, he could coldly push her to the brink. Sui, I've made up for what I owe you. Can you forgive me? My response was ambiguous. We'll see. I didn't mention divorce again, but my attitude towards him remained cold. GCI clung to me even more, trying to please me in every way. He prepared breakfast every morning. He waited for me outside my office, no matter how late I worked. He called to report his whereabouts, no matter who he was meeting. But none of this earned him my forgiveness. One night, as I was about to go to my room, GCI grabbed my hand. Sui, when will you come back to our room? I pulled my hand away. Maybe, never. His face showed vulnerability. Sui, what more can I do? I'll change. I didn't respond. He tightened his grip on my arm. I know your dad's factory needs funding, and your studio needs new clients. I stared at him. Are you threatening me? No, I just want to help you, to make things right. I didn't refuse. I didn't mention divorce, not just to make everyone suffer equally, but also because, as an adult, I knew staying with GCI gave me access to more resources. Before, I feared people would question my motives for marrying GCI, so I never asked for help. Now, I realized how foolish that was. GCI noticed that in social settings, I didn't give him the cold shoulder. In fact, I acted as if nothing had happened. I didn't miss the joy in his eyes when I held his arm. So he took me to various social events. He treated me with utmost care, introducing me to everyone. This is my wife. And I would naturally intertwine my hands with his, leaning on his shoulder. Everyone praised us. You two have such a great relationship. It's enviable. Yes, I love my wife very much. A slight wave of nausea rose in my stomach. Only when he felt unloved did he start to show love. How laughable. My dad called me. Sweetheart, did you ask GCI for help? Our factory suddenly got so many orders. I said no, but my dad didn't believe me. But my dad probably didn't realize that in our circle, everyone saw GCI and me as one. In those settings, GC's love for me was evident. I didn't need to do anything. People would eagerly connect with me, ensuring my satisfaction. But after each event, I would immediately withdraw my hand. GCI stared at me, full of grievance. Sui, do you not love me anymore? I responded coldly. If that's what you think, there's nothing I can do. Thanks to GCI, I connected with a major client requiring a business trip to City A. I left in a hurry, and it wasn't until I saw numerous missed calls from GCI that I realized I had forgotten to tell him about the trip. From his messages, he seemed more anxious than usual. I calmly replied, informing him of my trip. He didn't respond. But when I returned to the hotel the next day, he was standing outside my room. Seeing me, he rushed over, ignoring my resistance, and hugged me tightly. I heard his rapid heartbeat. I thought. Thought what? Nothing, just that I realized I can't let you out of my sight for even a second. His words no longer stirred any emotion in me. GCI insisted on coming to my room. We argued in the lobby. Sui, we're married. I grew impatient. And then, the unexpected happened. Maybe it was the passage of time or poor quality. The luxurious chandelier above us fell straight down. At that moment, I cursed my limp leg for not reacting quickly. But GCI moved swiftly. He turned, shielding me with his body, taking the brunt of the chandelier's impact. Before losing consciousness, I heard his whisper. Sui, thank goodness you're okay. Life might be a cycle of cause and effect. In this accident, GCI injured his leg. The patient's leg injury is severe. He'll have lasting effects and can't engage in strenuous activities. TS. Still not severe enough. GCI, why did you do that? His eyes showed determination. Sui, because it's you, it's worth it. I stared at him. GCI, is there anything you want to confess? He hesitated, then forced a pale smile. No, there's nothing you don't know. Still lying. Looking at him, I felt a surge of frustration. Was this prolonged mutual destruction really necessary? Anger and frustration swelled within me. I excused myself to buy food and left the room. But when I returned, I saw an unwelcome guest, Jong Nyan. This time, GC's attitude was clear. He was telling Jong Nyan to leave. Jong Nyan cried uncontrollably. When she saw me at the door, she knocked the food out of my hands. Do you think you've won? Do you think without me, you two can be together? Don't you know? On New Year's Eve and many other nights, he was in my bed. GCI suddenly erupted in anger, throwing whatever was at hand at Jong Nyan. He seemed to forget that he had once protected her when she was hurt. Shut up, Jong Nyan. Get out, and stay far away. Jong Nyan ran out, crying. GC's hands trembled. Sui, she's lying. She's just trying to drive a wedge between us. I calmly picked up the scattered food. Hum. GC's breathing grew rapid. Sui, aren't you angry? Don't you have questions for me? I put away the broom. GCI, what do you want me to ask? Should I ask if kissing your lover on New Year's Eve was romantic? Or if you were just chatting under the covers at Jong Nyan's place? Or if what you told your brother about marrying me because I was easy to control is true? GCI, which one do you want to explain? The color drained from his face, fear filling his eyes. GCI, I don't want to hear any of it. The long-delayed action was brought up again, and the resources and benefits I had gained from him were already enough. GCI, let's get a divorce. I can never live peacefully with you again. Some women forgive infidelity and live harmoniously. But I can't. I hold grudges. If I could, I'd want those who betrayed me to suffer every pain imaginable. GCI stared at me, tears suddenly filling his eyes. Then large tears rolled down his cheeks. His voice was urgent, as if trying to prove something. I don't want a divorce. Sui, I love you. I truly love you. I didn't finish what I told my brother. While our start was because I thought you were suitable as a wife. But in these 5 years, I've fallen in love with you. I grew impatient. I didn't tell you one thing. I can't stand being hurt and betrayed. I can never forgive you. I'll ask your mom to take care of you. You're at fault in this marriage, so the assets will favor me in the divorce. I walked out of the room, hearing something heavy hit the floor, followed by a heart-wrenching cry. Sui Sui. I didn't look back, letting the tears flow freely. From my first crush to now, it had always been him. He had become a part of me over those 9 years. But he had turned into a rotten piece of flesh. Removing it left me bloody and raw. GCI was discharged quickly, pushed by a lawyer to discuss the divorce. In just 2 weeks he looked haggard, his cheeks sunken. The lawyer handed me the divorce agreement. I carefully reviewed it while GCI stared at me, muttering. Jong Nayan and I were together since we were young. When things were good, that happened. I hated her, but my mom forced me to break up, constantly pushing me to find someone else, to marry, to cut off all ties with Jong Nayan. Her relentless pressure suffocated me, so I complied. I thought if I treated you well, it would be enough. But feelings can't be controlled, especially over 5 years. I fell in love with you, maybe when you waited for me in the living room every day, or when I woke up one morning and wanted to kiss you. Then Jong Nayan came back, claiming she saved me, getting those scars, and my dad owed a lot of debt. Guilt, resentment, all mixed together, and I acted foolishly. Sui Sui, I realized too late. But no one gives unlimited chances to make mistakes. I finished reviewing the agreement. It was fair, giving me most of his assets. Are you done? If so, sign it. He wiped his eyes, picked up the pen, his hand trembling, and after a long time, he shakily signed his name. Sui Sui, will I ever see you again? I picked up the agreement and prepared to leave. No. If possible, I hope never to see you again. Stay far away from my world. In that moment, I saw tears in his eyes again. I'm sorry. I paused. You're not just sorry to me. You owe your mom an apology too. Getting involved with someone who destroyed your family, GCI, you're trash. I didn't care if his face turned as white as a sheet. I took the agreement and walked away. The next time I heard about GCI was through gossip in our circle. After our divorce, GCI acted recklessly. Despite his leg injury, he indulged in extreme sports. Racing, skydiving, skiing, he did it all. Eventually, he paid the price. A skiing accident left him with new injuries on top of old ones, permanently crippling his leg. In the end, it was a cycle of cause and effect.